So what's going on, guys? I'm Blackout's Amazing. Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another Zombies Q&A on the channel, the series where I take your questions from the comment section below to do the zombie storyline, Easter eggs, and I answer them. As always, if you go on to enjoy today's video, don't forget to drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos. But let's get into it. Here we go, and enjoy. So the first question of the day says, can you explain the bombs we use to clear debris in Cold War Zombies? Why are they purple? This is something I've also been wondering since the beginning, because this is a new thing to Cold War Zombies. If you go up to a blocked passageway, a door, debris, in order to clear it, you place down this purple kind of looking weird bomb. Before in Zombies to progress through our maps, the usual way is we would purchase the doors, or you would spend points and whatever was in front of you would move out of the way. But now we place down this bomb, it blows up whatever's in front of us and we can continue. But how does this bomb work? Who made it? Well, there is a radio we can find from Dr. Strauss, where he pretty much tells us that he created these bombs and they were made using Ethereum.
You would do well to remember how Ethereum has benefited you in the field. Major Carver's WANDs, the experimental explosives you clear pathways with. Two examples of things that would not exist if not for my work. You're welcome.
So yeah, there you go, a simple one to answer. They are experimental explosives that he created to clear pathways. The next question of the day says, besides from Eddie and Samantha, are there any other references in Cold War back to the old Zombies characters? Well, there was one interesting character I've noticed that I haven't spoken about yet that relates back to the old zombie story. As you said, we have Samantha, Richtofen. Those are a couple of characters from the old zombie story. We don't really have anyone else. I'm not going to count people like Weaver and Woods. I mean characters that were properly a part of the storyline. But there is one person. In Firebase C, the wonder weapon in this map is called the RayGun, and if we look at the blueprint, we get a tiny description along with it, where it says the weapon blueprint for Kulke's prized invention. Its design was partially inspired by recovered schematics for the generator Koesa Zavoyski 45, a proposed weapon from World War II that never made it beyond concept. It is unclear why Peck was so uninterested in Kulke's prototype, but it will be invaluable to Requiem's weapon research. So in here we are told the RayGun was inspired by a World War II weapon that never made it into production, which was called the generator Koesa Zavoyski 45. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but you may recognise a little part of that name, and that's Zavoyski. There is another character in our zombie storyline whose name was Yuri Zavoyski, and what's more interesting is if we go to a wonder weapon we saw in Gorod Karovi called the GKZ-45, the actual name for this weapon is the generator Koesa Zavoyski 45. That's what JKZ-45 stands for. So there are two fascinating things we get here. One, we learn that the RayGun in Firebase C was inspired by the wonder weapon from Gorod Karovi. Now this is interesting because we are told that this was a concept weapon for World War II that never made it into production. So this wonder weapon was intended to use during World War II. That alone's interesting, meaning this is a prototype weapon. It was intended to be used by the Soviets. We know it's a Russian weapon because if you look on the back of the gun, there is the red star, so that tells us it's Russian. And more so, the generator Koesa Zavoyski 45, if it includes part of Yuri Zavoyski's name, was it made by him? Because none of this is mentioned in the chronorium, yet we know Yuri was Russian. He also did create weapons. He created the Gersh device when he worked at Ascension. We don't know the origins of the GKZ-45, we don't know where it came from, we just find it in the mystery box on Gorod, but at some point, could it have been made by Yuri? There is a cipher which is this one up on screen now that we find in Der Eisendrache. When you decrypt it, it says mission log entry 45. I am over the site looking down through the open door. I can see weird distortion below me, like a localized Aurora Borealis. I would normally cancel the operation, but we don't have time. Luckily, I have taken experimental weaponry version 3 that no one has seen before from my previous mission, Never Say Never. Peter. So this is a message from Peter McCain where he is saying he is in the plane above Shinonuma looking down about to jump into the facility. That explains why we find him hanging in Shinonuma, because he jumps out of the plane and his parachute gets stuck in the ceiling hanging him. But this time, as he's about to jump out of the plane, he sees a portal below him where we know he jumps down into it and that spits him out at Gorod Karovi. So the weapon that he's talking about, where he says he's taken experimental weaponry version 3 from his previous mission, has to be the RayGun Mark 3. If you aren't aware, that's pretty much what the GKZ-45s are. It's the RayGun Mark 3. Peter McCain tells us he took it from his previous mission, which was at Verrucht, that That's also weird because it's a Russian weapon. Verukta was a facility used by Group 935, but that explains why this weapon ends up at Gorod. We do find it in the mystery box, and the mystery box is given to us by Dr. Monty, so Peter McCain taking the RayGun Mark IIIs and then being spat out at Gorod could have no relevance on them ending up there. But going back to the main subject, there are two things we learn. The first one being the name of this weapon, the generator Koasa Zavoysky 45. That tells us that more than likely it was created by Yuri, who was also the Pentagon thief. And then two, in Firebase C, we are told the Ray K was actually inspired by the RayGun Mark III. It was a prototype weapon intended to be used in World War II. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. There are other characters besides from Samantha and Eddie that are referenced in our new zombie story, and I wouldn't be surprised if later on down the line more familiar names appear. The next question, which comes from Zombie Lad, says, does the Wonderfizz machine come from the Dark Ether, as you can see parts of the original Speed Cola and Juggernaut machines attached to it? So if you've ever taken a proper look at the Wonderfizz in Cold War, you will notice it is made up of 3 to 4 different perk machines that we are familiar with. There is half of the original Speed Cola machine, the original design from the old story. We also have half of the original Juggernaut. The bottom of it is made up of Quick Revive, and the main machine, of course, is Wonderfizz. So it's made up of 3 of the original perk machines, and the Wonderfizz machine is the main part. But where does it come from? The Dark Ether? And this question also can be applied to all of the perks. Tombstone, Juggernaut, Speed Cola, Stamina Up, Elemental Pop. We know their background in the original storyline. Most of the perks were made by Group 935. Some of them were also made by other groups like the Ascension Group. And then Dr. Monty helped as well. He assisted Group 935 in making them. He even had his own factory. But where do they come from in Cold War? In our first Zombies Map D machine, you could only access the Wonderfizz if you were in the Dark Ether. In the later rounds it appeared in reality, but at first you could only get it if you were in the Dark Ether. As for all of the other perks, you can get them in our normal realm. There are a couple of documents we can find. These are from people trapped within the Dark Ether, where they talk about their experience with the perk machines. This one says, day 6157, found a red beverage machine a few days ago. Badly damaged, inner workings broken and exposed. Took it to my workshop. Tried to fix. I think I understand the design, but some parts are beyond repair. We'll have to scavenge from other such device. Will lift my spirits greatly to master this mechanism. So someone in the Dark Ether has found a broken Juggernaut machine. They're trying to fix it. And then there's another document. This one says, day 6121. New devices turning up. Machines filled with beverages. At first, distrusted them. Seemed like a trap. Waited for others to consume what they had to offer. Results, beverages not only safe to consume, but also have profound effects useful for combat. Machines even play music while dispensing. Not sure if someone is trying to help, or just messing with my mind. So again, mention of the perk machines. This one, however, is working because people have taken the drinks and had the effects that they give to them. It's interesting that this person even says he thinks someone is trying to help. That was the case in the original story. Dr. Monty transported the perks from place to place for our characters to use. So could someone have been helping this person in the Dark Ether by moving the perk machines from place to place? Some of the perk machines in Cold War Zombies look drastically different to what we are used to. In fact, they all do. It's just that some designs are more noticeably changed than the others. Like Tombstone looks nothing like its original version. The machines don't look like the original ones that Group 935 made. So could they have been made by someone else? We don't have an explanation on their design change. Even some of the effects have changed, like Juggernaut and Quick Revive. You would think it's simple to answer because we understood how they worked previously, but the changes that have been made to them, that's unexplainable, and also how they end up in reality. If they were just in the Dark Ether, then you could say they got banished there at the end of Tag along with everything else, but for some reason they are in reality. Is someone placing them there? Does it have something to do with the Dark Ether anomalies? Because in Outbreak, whenever you escape and move on to a new location, when you open up the anomaly, things such as the Pack-a-Punch machine, the workbench, the upgrades machine, and the Wonderfizz spawn out of the Dark Ether. That could also explain it. It is the Dark Ether anomalies in D Machine and Firebase C that spawn the perk machines from the Dark Ether. So there we go, guys. That is it. That is all I have for you for today's video. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, you know what to do. Drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, goodbye.